Hello World Doll Day friends, this is Michael Canadas with the Grovian Doll Museum and Carmel Doll Shop. Welcome to Upstairs, Downstairs. In this segment, we are going to get a little education. And one thing I will share with all of you is I learned to never say never. Recently, I said to David, I think I have enough of one particular kind of doll. I don't need any more. And then one day the phone rings and oops, I had to correct myself. Well, I guess I need a few more. The item I'm about to share with you, many years ago, John Darcy Noble did an article in Dolls magazine, and he featured this particular piece. And it was, at the time, it was in the collection of Dorothy Dixon and Winnie Langley. And those of you, this new generation, you're not going to know those names, but they were old-time collectors and dealers with a treasure trove of wonderful items. So it's worth it to go out and find those old issues of Dolls magazines, and our members in World Doll Day, if you have more than one copy of those, share them with the youngsters. So what I'm going to show you is a school from the 1820s. And what makes this school exceptional is the fact that we've got 13 students and 2 teachers. So clearly in the 1820s, small classrooms. And another thing that's very interesting about the class is that all of the students are girls. So it wasn't a common thing for girls to have an education the way we would have it today. It would be girls from an exceptional background. A lot of their education was finishing school type of education, where they would learn needlework and handwriting, various things like that. But trust me, they were highly educated for their time, perhaps even more so than we are today. And I went through some of the books in the class, and I found one dated 1822, which might be a couple of years before this, but not too far after. So first I want to talk about the clothing on the teachers. They're beautiful prints of the time, and I think it's interesting that they've done very to scale, which is not the normal thing you find on a doll of this time frame. This teacher's had a little rough treatment. Time has not necessarily been kind to her, but she is completely original. And I want to point out the hems on her pinafore are just, not even an eighth, less than an eighth of an inch in width. This one, and her stand will probably fall off. By the way, I went in and cleaned my hands with soap and water to get them very clean so that I could touch her without damaging it. But what is interesting about this costume is I have not seen this with a doll of this time frame, but it's lined with paper. That is something you see on 17th and 18th century dolls, and the paper was, good quality then, and it would last. And she's very nice. And I'm a little bit intrigued of, there are 2 purposeful holes in her head, so I'm wondering what went there. But again, beautiful woolen, velvet, silk costume lined with paper. No undergarments. Most of the time when you find these dolls, they do not have undergarments. So when I got the call of this piece, I'd seen it in the collection many years before, and I visualized it as really large. And it's actually quite petite. It's probably no more than 15 inches in width and probably 18 inches in length. I think we can safely say that all of the students are original to the school. And David hates when I say that, but as I was setting this up, I noticed something, that if you look on the pinafore, it's numbered in ink, and all of the dolls are numbered. What the takeaway is, there were more students than there are now. And that leads me to these funny little round pieces. And if anybody's out there can shed some light, but I think once I saw the numbers on the dolls, I realized that these were probably stools for more students. So even though there's the lucky 13 amount of students there were actually more once upon a time. I think we should talk about the price point of these dolls. Now they're very desirable and coveted and pricey. When these were made, they were about as cheap as you could get. The upper crust dolls, the more expensive dolls, would have been your wax dolls, beautiful beeswax dolls with glass eyes, and they would have had the fancy clothes and whatnot. They just didn't survive. We also see that there are some dolls that have family resemblances, and some are very, very different. So you almost have to wonder, is this a little later stock in the group, or is it from a different maker? And these were all made in the Grödnertal area, which is, you'll have to look it up on the map because it's changed borders many, many times, but it's a famous wood carving area. Now, another thing that I thought was odd is we have a group of dolls that purposely, and these are what I call our special needs kids, because they don't have any legs. And at first I thought they were missing the legs because, of age, which happens to these dolls pretty regularly. But I think that they were actually purposely snapped off so that they could sit better. And then we can see here there's some residue that probably these missing dolls were glued into place. And it's possible that they were all glued into place. That's the only residue we can find. Now, they had a very Spartan education. There's not a lot of materials that are there. And this, I think, is very interesting. It's a box that is glued to the table. So I think that's pretty clear that that's been there a long, long time. Now we have the what I call a Charlie Brown Christmas tree, which is a little early for this time frame if we were going to consider this an English toy. This could be an English toy, but it could also be European. It doesn't necessarily just have to be English, even though we really associate these with the young Princess Victoria and the royal family in that sense. There's books in Latin, German, and French. Some have been added, and some are original. Most of the original ones would be the ones I would think are very handmade. But within this one group of dolls, we really have a complete study group of the Grödnertal woodens. And, timing wasn't great for this to come our way, but I had admired it for many, many years, and it's here now, and we're going to enjoy it. And then technically, if we were going to say, are these upstairs dolls or downstairs dolls, they might be considered an in-between doll. And of course, a school teacher, our main school teachers, they were living in the world between the upstairs and the downstairs. Anyways, doll friends, I hope you enjoyed this presentation. We will be back with more World Doll Day celebrations upstairs, downstairs. Bye-bye. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification button.